Like. Yeah, that's great.
Oh, yeah.
Was 3 degrees yesterday, it's supposed to be -19. Hi everybody, it's 11:30, but we are going to wait until our legal representative enters the room. So we will get started just as soon as she gets here. Thanks for your patience.
Oh gosh. Well, that's such an easy way. Yeah.
Morning. Thank you for your patience. This is the time and the place of the February 12th meeting of the Boise Public Library Board of Trustees. I will call this meeting to order. Can we do a roll call?
Oh, yes. Lenny,
Yes.
Tara. Yes. Espy,
Here.
Lemons,
Here.
all board members present.
And I believe we have at least one introduction today.
Do have one introduction. I'm thrilled for you all to meet Siobhan Kofanta. She is our new marketing manager for the library. She comes with decades of experience in marketing, and so the community engagement team, as you know, it consists of people that focus on communication and marketing and community engagement. And we've got someone who's an absolute specialist in marketing, which was from our strategic plan, one of the real findings that we had about people not knowing what is happening at the library. So she has hit the ground running. She was responsible for the newsletter that went out in February. And she's also, we were just talking about some of the recent posts, particularly about Onyx Storm, book processing, and our holds. So she was behind that. So we are really thrilled to have her. Thank you. It's wonderful to be here, and I look forward to working with everyone. And then you'll also get to hear, I think most of you know him, but Tully Gerlach is later on our agenda. He'll be talking about our collections. So I think he might be new to Ron and Rishma, but always a requested topic with the board. I think everybody else has told you.
Fantastic. And just appreciation for the staff from the city and the library that are here today. It's nice to see some friendly faces and get a full house. Moving on, we have no communications. So I will ask that you please review the minutes from the January 8th meeting.
I move the acceptance of the minutes as presented.
Second.
We have a roll call here.
Paul, yes. Lenny,
Yes.
Tara, yes. Espy,
Yes.
Lemons,
Yes.
all in favor, motion carries.
Item 4, consent agenda. All matters on the consent agenda are considered routine and may be approved in a single motion. A trustee may ask that an item be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately.
Move that we approve the consent agenda. Second.
Roll call.
Paul, yes. Lenny,
Yes.
Tara, yes. Espy,
Yes.
Lemons,
Yes.
all in favor, motion carries.
Thank you so much. Moving on to reports. I am excited that this morning we have Kirsten Acker, the new president of the Friends of the Boise Public Library, with us this morning to give us a report from the Friends. Good morning, Kirsten. Welcome.
Good morning. So we are in our new space in the warehouse facing on Fulton. We are looking to do a sale hopefully at the end of the month. Just so everyone knows, we are still taking donations, even though the construction is sort of a nightmare. And so we're moving along and hopefully getting everything up and running so we can have sales and generate some money.
That's fantastic. Which location will the sale be at this round, Kirsten?
It'll be in the new space on Fulton.
Fantastic. Excellent. Any questions for Kirsten?
Welcome. We're happy to have you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining us, Kirsten. We sure appreciate it. Moving on, we will get a report from Foundation and Camille. Welcome, Camille.
Hi, good morning, everyone. A short update this month. We are beginning the planning process for the different events that we anticipate being involved with during 2025. And besides that, our focus is on regular operations. Our next meeting is tomorrow, and that is all I have for this month. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Camille. Appreciate you. Moving on to the director's report, Jessica.
I just want to update you real quickly. Today's Wednesday, so on Monday, we saw two bills that were introduced in the House Local Government Committee related to libraries. And they were posted yesterday. So House Bill 212 is concerned with the petitioning the proposed library district, so not applicable to Boise Public Library. House Bill 209 is a proposed change to the Idaho Code, which oversees public libraries. So this is the part of the code that oversees public libraries, not district libraries. And it is designed to give cities more discretion to decide the employment process for library directors. In my read, just looking at that this morning, is it would give the city council the ability to designate the library director as a position to be hired and terminated as a city employee. It would not compel cities to do it, so it's not required, but it would give them the ability to do that. And I checked the House schedule today. It's not on a committee agenda yet, but I expect that it will at some point be scheduled for a hearing. That is all I know of that. I am happy to take forward any questions that you might have, but that was my quick read based on looking at the proposed language of the bill this morning.
We've heard tell of a third potential bill involving bookmobiles, but is there anything printed?
Not that nice. All right. And then on a different note, the Boise Writer in Residence, Susan Brunn, is having a Writer in Residence workshop today. It's 6 o'clock in this very room. And her workshop is titled Returning to Language, and it explores tools to make music with words. And I'm really excited I'll be able to attend that today. So just wanted to invite everyone, all of you in the public, to join as well. And with that, then I also, if there's any questions in the packet, happy to answer them as well.
Thank you, Jessica. Moving on, requests for consideration. We have none this month. Moving on to educational items, we will have Telly Gerlach, our collection development librarian, do a presentation on collection development. Welcome, Telly.
Thank you. I will preview this is that when Kathy and I talked about having a collection development discussion, we also talked about having a deep dive into our world languages collection. That's too much content for one meeting. So we asked Tully to provide more of an overview of the whole collection. And we will have a later, probably maybe June or July meeting where we'll actually do more specifically working at the world languages part. So I want to preview that. So I don't want anyone to be disappointed that that is not what Tully's focus is going to be. But we just, when we looked at how in-depth the information is, and knowing in our previous discussions with Tully how many questions there were and how fun it was, we didn't want to shortchange either topic.
Thank you. And frankly, we're not quite ready to talk about that just yet anyway. We're still gathering data on that. But it does tie into this. Although now I feel kind of bad because I did kind of pivot away from this. Will be less of a broad overview of the collection as a whole and more explanation of how it uses a particular tool to manage the collection and monitor its health and performance. So this is a snapshot of one page of what we call our collection assessment, something that we run yearly. And have been doing so, as you can see, since 2017. So we have a really good range of data from what we would call normal years to some very abnormal years there in the middle. And now we are kind of tracking progress out of that 2021 sort of lacuna back. And this allows us to really kind of have a handle on what is happening with our collections. We use this tool to determine what collections are, how they're performing, their relative health, And from that, we also use that we are able to start determining appropriate size of collections, which translates into shelf space, which also translates into budget allocations. So we are looking at these numbers and this data every year as we look at our budgets and determine what locations and what collections within those locations we want to devote funds to. As you can see, this gets extremely granular. Take every collection on its own at every single location. Some collections, we really dig down deep. We found there's ways to roll all this up and get broader overviews of collections as a whole on location or by audience or format. We have found that actually the more we roll these up, there's sort of less meaningful numbers become. This is really an effective tool to work at a very, very granular level. It allows us to really get down and see how these individual collections are performing. So the way this works is that we identified, and we originally put this together back in 2017, several different data points that we felt were the most important data points, the ones that we felt we wanted to really pull out of the collection, ones that prior to 2017 we struggled to pull out of the collection universe, and the ones that we felt would, taken together, tell the best story of what was happening with a particular collection. Those are listed over there on the left. They're basically, they kind of range out from just kind of gross number of checkouts, number of items. From that, we derive a thing called a turnover, which is basically sort of it's an indication of how often the collection is actually checking out, how often it's moving on shelves. Higher the turnover, the more it's going out. Lower the turnover, the more it's just kind of sitting. There's a related number for that. That's the average last checkout date. That gives us more of a hard number. How long does an average item actually sit on the shelf before it does check out? Then we have ages, and then we have total percentage of collection out and numbers. And those are the things that we really drill down and look at. So I wanted to kind of pull out a practical example here. These are the board books out of Bound Crossing. Like I said, we have a sheet.
Board books.
Board books. Those are the books that are geared towards babies and toddlers. They're cardboard, a little bit sturdier, so they can be chewed on. So less prone to be ripped to shreds, but also on a very short shelf. But they are designed for the youngest reader audience. This is like a very, very beginner book, fundamental to really getting that early literacy going. So this is an important collection in all locations. So this is how things look with Bound. It's just kind of looking over the years. When we look at Bound's numbers, we have to remember that 2017 was a partial year because it opened, I think, April or May sometime. We can see that we started out with this collection, just around 1,000 board books out there. They just did incredibly well right off the bat, right out the gate. And we can see that, of course, like everything in 2020, we had quite a drastic drop, going from 12,000 checkouts down to just 30, which of course is to be expected. But if you look at the percentage out in 2020, amazingly enough, 90% of those books still managed to come back. So that shows that this was a collection that really was much more resilient to the library closure and what we saw happen in 2020. We took that opportunity in 2020 and 2021. You can see that the collection is reduced in size. And again, as I say, board books are a very high turnover collection and high use. You can't really keep them around too long. So we took this opportunity to refresh the collection. And you can really see what was going on. So we reduced the numbers a bit. If you look down at the average age, you can see a drop in those ages. For board books, you really want to look at the age by acquisition. We have two ages: there's copyright and acquisition. In a collection like this, copyright is really kind of an irrelevant number. It's really the acquisition age that's important. So you can see that we kind of had a little spike up there by 2021. The average collection was about 4 years old, but in 2022 and 23, as we reduced it, we got that down to 1. You also see the average number of checkouts going from a high of 30 down to about 13 and 23. So what that indicates, we can really see the results of our work, which was to get the old board books, the ones that were there on opening day, the most battered of them, the most high use, clear out all the old stuff and make way for a whole lot of new stuff. And that's so when you look at that reduction in numbers, not just that, oh my gosh, you got rid of a big chunk of that collection. It's that we were in the process of refreshing the collection. looking at the average age of use reflects that, yes.
So to be clear, you may be replacing them with the same title.
It might be, yes.
Right, it's not that you're turning over the number of titles, you're just turning the number of physical units.
Yes, yes, cool. So there'll probably be an influx of brand new titles as well as pure straight up replacements, one of the replacements. But we really did get aggressive. And when I say we, it's really my colleague Sarah Mann. She manages this collection. Really got aggressive about getting this collection refreshed, getting new items out there, better looking items. Again, the average number of checkouts is also an indicator of what the collection probably looks like. It's great to see high average checkouts, but the higher they get, the more you realize this collection is starting to be shot in that direction. So we want to keep things looking nice at all our locations. So as you reduce the collection, yes, you do lose some checkout numbers. As you can see, that it dropped a little bit from 2022 and 2023. Now, last year, Sarah really got aggressive about rebuilding that collection. You can see we jumped way back up to 855 total items for last year. You can also see that with that growth, we had quite an explosion in the checkouts to just over 7,000. And actually, frankly, that's extremely rare to grow a collection that quick and see that number of checkouts also go up that quick too. That's really a sign of a very robust collection that's really meeting a actual need at this location for its community. See the turnout rate shot back up, and we're back up to 96% out with a collection that's really just really a year old. These are brand new books just flying off the shelves out of bounds. So looking at this would be a thing where looking back, we said we had a strategy, we did something, and now we can really see the results. What we can see is that was the correct strategy. That was the right move. And going forward, this collection will continue to grow. We'll probably try and get it back to our pre-COVID levels, get back to about 1,000 items. And hopefully we'll see those checkout rates get back up to 10,000 plus. From just looking at what we saw happen last year, I feel fairly confident that we'll see that happen. But if we don't, next year when we look at what happened in 2025, some tapering or plateauing, we'll adjust. So we just keep on doing. Right now, the data says, yes, keep growing this collection. Next year, we'll look at it again. And this is that kind of granular collection by collection, location by collection, location by location research that we're doing on a regular basis using this tool. So here we have a collection. We can see, okay, this is a successful collection. It's very meaningful, community bound, values this. So we're going to continue to push forward. We have the data to prove these things. Now, on the flip side of that, if we can jump to the next slide. Thank you. All this movies, this is basically a DVD collection, feature films, adult DVDs. So here we have a case where we had extremely huge checkout rates in 18 and 19. We saw, again, a massive drop in 2020. Then we saw a continual drop in checkout rates down through 2020 and into 21 and 22 and on into 23. So what we're seeing here is very clear indication. This is a particular collection that is not bouncing back. This is where we can really see evidence of changes in people's habits, viewing habits, and the way that they relate to this collection, especially out at Bound. DVD rates have dropped all across the board. I think at Bound they're especially dramatic, which is something specific about that community. So again, what we do is, and looking at this, realize, and so this is my colleague Lori, looked at this very realistically, said, yes, I can see if this is no longer the collection that used to be. It does not warrant having 1,000 plus items out there. And as you can see, she's continued to shrink this collection. Unlike the board books where we pull out the old ones and we're trying to rebuild it, this one is being, both of them are what we would call right sizing. And that's really what I'm talking about, is figuring out what's the proper size for this collection at this point in time. So what happens when you are responsive to these, realistic about it, and is that, yes, it's a smaller collection, the checkout rates are dropping, but you look at all the other, and the turnover rate's a little bit lower. But when you look at the average last checkout date and the percentage of the collection that's out, those are still back up at their kind of the optimal levels like we saw in 19. So this allows us to really kind of gauge, can we get a collection to still be useful and meaningful, even if we do have to reduce that size. And get, so what, even if we have to see some reduction in some of the data, we can still see an increase or maintenance of really good numbers in another area. Which, again, I want to emphasize that when we look at this, we do look at everything. There's no one single data point that we look at and go, oh, that indicates success, that indicates failure, that indicates. You have to look at all of it. So yeah, is it great that we're down to just under 4,000 checkouts with DVDs? No, that's not great, but we're still getting most of that out the door, which also tells us that the right DVDs are out there. That even though it's severely reduced in size, the DVDs that are still of interest out there. And that leads me to mention that we don't just have this sheet. There's a lot behind this, just a screenshot of one portion of this. Behind all this data, we have a more advanced formula sheet that covers more numbers. And we also have the actual item-to-item level data is in here too. So when Lori goes to look and say, you know, what are the DVDs that check out, we can arrange that. Move them around and see what is checking out. And from that, gain that item by item knowledge of the collection that allows us to get these not only right size, but also still functioning in a very effective and meaningful way for that community. As I say, this happens across every single collection. All of us selectors, we run these in January, and we spend the year looking at just analyzing it and figuring out what we need to do, especially when budget time comes around. We pull these up. What collections are growing? Where do we need to get these funds? What collections can we take some funds away from in order to grow the ones that we need to grow? It also comes down to when we go out at the locations and talk to the managers and the staff and say, here's what we're seeing. Does this match what you're seeing? Often it does. And then we can talk about space and location. If we reduce the DVDs, would that let you give you more space for this other collection? That means more space. What can we do based on the data that we have, the hard data we have, the day-to-day ground level data that they're seeing on a regular basis? And how can we work to make collection as a whole, all of it at this particular location, that's meaningful and functional collection that can possibly be. And that really, kind of in a nutshell, I could talk about this for an hour or two, really, but is the primary tool that we have been using and have been using now for many years to really help manage. And going forward, realizing that data is going to be important, space concerns, budget concerns. We feel very confident that we have the data that's really going to help us make the right kinds of decisions at each location for each collection. Yes.
I would think that knowing either in raw numbers or the percentage of items that are new that year would be helpful. I mean, it's not on these sheets, maybe it's just on page 2 of the same thing for each of these categories.
Yes. We do have that information. So on our.
You also have average age by acquisition.
Yes.
If you clue, it's mostly pretty new.
Yes. The age by acquisition gives you kind of that really good like at a glance number. But if you really want to know, on our primary formula sheet, this is all in Excel. We have the main sheet that crunches all the formulas and then feeds them here. These aren't the only formulas that we have going on that main sheet. We have several others. These are just the ones that we said that we want to see in that it's more digestible format. That is one of the raises we have. We have a number that picks out the books by, I think, last few. So it's percentage of collection copyright date between the current year and 3 years back. It's a rolling collection. So this year, I think it'd be between 21 and 25. So we do have that raw number. What percentage is collection is extremely recent. And similarly, on the item level, we can go in and we can sort the items by acquisition. Just pull up the latest ones. If we wanted to, we could easily just copy those into a separate sheet to analyze the function of our current items, which we do. We look very closely at what did I add this year? How's this stuff doing? That's a very important data point for us personally, because it's a way for us to track if we're doing our jobs effectively, understanding our collections.
So sort of related to that is the notion of you have probably not so much with DVDs, but certainly you have multiple copies of a particular title.
Yes.
Right. And over time, clearly, whatever the newest bestseller is, I'll just pull them out. You're gonna need a bunch of them because it's hot, there's a lot of people wanting it. Over time, that title, you don't need 12 copies of you. So how are you looking at that relative to the same kind of thing of, it may be of those 519 DVDs this year, you know,
Yeah.
you have some of them you have 3 copies of, some of them you have 1 copy of. When do you know to reduce that 3 to 2 to 1, et cetera?
Yes, so yeah, that would certainly be in here. We can access that on the item level. We have a regular reading schedule, so every branch is, we send this out twice a year and we hear it May. So the reading is sort of adjacent to this as well. So like personally, what I do when I read a collection is I pull this sheet, kind of look at the overall data, then we will pull a fresh sheet of like that moment's data. Kind of compare it to this, just be okay, here's where we're as of January. Look at it, and then part of that process also is going in and tracking down those duplicate copies. And again, it's the same functionality inside, so where you can sort of sort by tiling off and recognition and kind of stacking up on top of each other and just really see, okay, we have 5 copies, 2 of them are 3 of them, or we can see the checkouts declining in that way. Yes, so we're using the same kind of data. It's a different point in our process, but it's definitely all, that's certainly one of the important things we look at, because we don't want 5 copies of something sitting on the shelf and moving to yes.
Thank you.
Curiosity, how many collections are you looking at across all of the branches? It's a lot. It's
Yeah, it's a lot.
fascinating. How many are there?
Hundreds. I mean, because like the children's collections, we have broken down into, as you saw, the board books, the easy readers, the picture books, chapter books, series books, graphic novels, and then the nonfiction. That's just the youth stuff. And then in adult, there's less gradations, but in the DVDs, we have them broken out by feature films, documentaries, TV series, anime is a separate category. It's really broken out. In adult fiction, we have regular fiction, sci-fi, fantasy, romance, and mystery, and a few genres. So for every distinct thing that we think of as a separate collection, there's one of these, and even beyond. The adult nonfiction here at Maine, that collection is broken into literally hundreds and hundreds of subgroups based on Dewey numbers. So rather than just talk about the 300s as a whole, I have it broken down into, many subgroups like this particular bit of the Dewey class. Been working on kind of refining that, trying to make it function. But yeah, there are really hundreds and hundreds of these things.
So sort of. And this is obviously within the universe of what's the public library, but then you've got all the library stuff that it takes. And I don't know whether that you take any of that into consideration, or you just have to live with, okay, I can only control my own universe. I'm not going to worry about if there's 12 copies of this DVD in Nampa, and I don't need to buy them.
Yes, that. The latter thing you said. There's nothing we can do about what the other libraries do with their collections. Unless we worry about it, the better it is for. Stress levels. Yeah, our duty is to Boise, city of Boise, the community here, the community that our collections serve, the communities. Tax dollars are financing this, and that's, we kind of try and stay tunnel vision on that, especially when it comes to analyzing our data. It's not that we don't sometimes take into account, but it's just so much extra noise, readings and Nampa and EO, and frankly, I think we kind of think that we do things the best. We have the best practices, so I don't really want to know. It's just, again, it can be really stressful too when you see things that you do differently, or think should be being done differently in art, and you can't do anything about it. So again, we kind of focus on what we can control.
Any other questions for Tully?
It's a good tool. Yeah, very helpful.
Thanks.
These are always some of the most fascinating presentations.
Good.
All year to get this like inner workings of how you all are making decisions. So thank you so much for making this digestible for us and breaking it down, and appreciation, gratitude to the team. This is key work. So thank you.
And we're always available if you have more questions or there is a particular collection you're interested in, just like there was some more kind of wonky data about something, if your personal favorite area, just want to know how it's doing. You know, I and my whole team, we're available anytime, so please feel free to reach out to us.
Thank you.
They really do. They are the group that understands specific community interests based on the locations. And I just remember learning, you know, that you were spending time really trying to understand, okay, Hillcrest has this huge science fiction group. How are we making sure that that group, when they come in, they're always finding something new? And so that idea of, you know, we've got a great system where things can be put on hold, but they really are also trying to prioritize, particularly for youth, that browsable experience. You know, that's why the turnover rates for youth materials, you're always looking to make those as high as possible, because that's the group that doesn't want to put something on hold. They just want to show up at the library. So there's also really that mix between what our public services team is seeing and users, and then what the collection is. So those conversations, I think, are really important.
I was just saying to the DVD question that you shared, I mean, that's a technology issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where, you know, people are just throwing away their DVD players and yet everybody's streaming, so that I would be inclined to sort of simultaneously look at how much your on-demand streaming is growing as this shrinks, because I think people's appetite for video hasn't diminished, it's just they're getting it in a different way.
That's exactly right. And that's something that we're very conscious of, because we, you know, that's why we're not just liquidating the DVD collections to realize business temporary. And we are beginning to see requests for things because people are realizing, I think there was a time 5 or so years ago when it did seem like everything was online streaming somehow. Now it seems that's not as much the case. People are realizing that. So we're really looking at what are people using streaming for? What are they using collection for? Is there separate sort of uses happening here? Is there a different kind of need that we can fill rather than just trying to kind of just throw stuff out there and see, can we understand how that change in usage and technology might affect what we're doing, what we might need to be doing in the future? So that's something that, yes, we're very, very mindful of that. When we see things like that, we're asking questions. Why is this happening? What's going on here? What's the best response that serves our community?
All right, next up, we have our public policy review with Sarah Kelly Chase. It's 30 of your packets, I need it. Can I not? We're not even suggesting anything. So we are starting section 4.0. We're actually right on track, exactly where we were last year. We reviewed the section in February. So first 3 sections of use of the library, including circulation, library cards, borrowing services, and fees. Does anyone have any questions or suggestions?
Just a comment, and I'm not suggesting do anything to change this at all right now. It's
Okay.
just fine, it serves its purpose, but
Sure.
I felt like 4.0 didn't really work that hard. It's 4 paragraphs, 3 of the paragraphs are 1 sentence. The first 3 paragraphs feel to me like they belong in the use of the library for $1. And that 4th paragraph looks like it really belongs in library cards. And you might be able to get rid of circulation and promote 402A and 402B. These sections on their own. Simplify it.
Okay, well, the difference, we've got policy versus regulation, so that might be the difference of the repetitiveness. But happy to look through, if there's a way to streamline it. Thank you. You've all done a really good job with these. Okay, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, we can look for that. So I guess that would be for next year. Yeah, bring that back. I like that simplification.
Yep. Alright, thank you. Okay, Sarah. Moving on to facilities project update from Jessica and Lindsay with our Public Works Department.
Well, Lindsay's coming up to the table and Carrie's getting our slides going. I'm excited to talk to you all about the upcoming listing sessions. So in your packet, you saw I have the dates. I'll put them back up. We can talk about them too. So last month we had a debrief on the joint work session with council and board. So December we had the work session. In January we debriefed on it, and this discussion is going to wrap those two together and share with you our draft plan for those listing sessions based on where we are in the facility planning process and that feedback and direction. So we're going to go over the schedule for the listening sessions. I want to review our proposed goals for them, see if we've got the right goals for that, our draft overview of what that agenda will look like. Then we're going to provide you a little update on outreach or specific project outreach for teams. Talk a little bit about how we'll get the word out. Siobhan and I were meeting about this yesterday. We'll talk about your role in the listening session and answer any questions. And this is draft, so this is really the point where we really want your feedback. Just as a reminder, here's where we are in that planning process. We've done the, had that real deep needs assessment that Group 4 has done. They're starting to do some of that strategy and number crunching. We've done that survey, had that conversation with council and board. And now this is the piece where we go back to the community based on some direction. So here's the listening sessions also in your packet. We've got them scheduled really sort of an intense schedule for them. It is a variety of days of the week. We try to break it up. So we've got some evenings, we've got a weekend. Well, we tried to look at, where we might get specific user groups, but really wanted to have a session at every single location.
Jessica, how will the discussion flow?
That's coming up. So here's the goals. Like I said, this really was what we had, we're building towards. So this is designed to support the development of our facility plan. First off, we're just going to start with we want to make sure we update the community on the purpose of the facility plan and our process to create it. Similar to the presentation I gave to start the joint work session, we want to share with the community some of those current trends that we're seeing, the feedback from the community survey, our key findings, really to provide that context for the discussions. And then this was really, I think, what I heard from board and council in December, and then when we talked about it in January, wanting to engage with a conversation with the community on how we should prioritize future investments for existing and potential future facilities. That prioritization and that discussion were the things that I think were really, really focused. So we've built the rest of these based on these goals. So keep these goals in mind, and then when we outline what we think the agenda could look like, really want to make sure that we're hitting that target. All right, Brian's question. So here's what our proposed agenda for those listening sessions. I'm going to give you, I have 2 slides that'll flesh out this a little bit, the feedback and the breakout sessions. But let me walk you through the whole thing. Obviously, welcoming everybody, bringing people into the session, talking about the goals of why we're here together. And we want to start that, sort of energize the discussion with a quick sticky note exercise to get people sort of in the mood to provide feedback. And I'll show you the questions that we've identified for that. Then that context setting. So this will be an overview that I will be providing, where talk about the trends, the feedback from the community survey, our key findings. This is really that piece that then sets up those breakout conversations. And this, we're gonna be kind of flexible because we're not sure how many people will come to each session and they have more interest at one location or not another, so we'll do a little bit more working on breakout sessions, but got those questions also. And then depending on if we're doing a multiple group discussions or one group discussion, we'll wanna have the opportunity to have facilitators bring back what that might look like to report. If we're not able to do a discussion as a whole group, if it's too big, then we'd wanna have the opportunity for each group to hear from other groups. And then we'll also come up with something kind of fun to do the wrap up, but we're still, as I said, thinking about it a little bit. Okay. So the quick feedback question, and this is something that group 4 does a lot with their facility listening sessions, that I was able to see some of the materials that I really liked, is that for each location, to ask people to do a sticky on the library. What do they love about, what makes that library special for you? What would you like to fix or improve in that library? And what can we think about to add? If anything was possible, what would you add to the library? And what group 4 really likes it because it gets people up and moving and putting stickies around and see each other's feedback. And people want to give feedback on the things they like because they really want to make sure you don't forget the things people love. So I think this is such a good way to start a feedback discussion about the library facilities, is letting people give space to the things that they are most appreciative, that is most special to them, so that we don't lose sight of that as we're looking at.
Each person gets 3 stickies. One for each of these.
Or
Or
they
is
could
it-
have as many stickies as they want. So if you want to talk about board books at Mountain Crossing and other thing, it's not to limit people, absolutely. All right, so that's what we're thinking of for that quick feedback, get people engaged. Then after that, we would go back to that context, here's where we are, talk about the library system, some of the trends we're seeing, some of the findings from the survey that came out. Like I said, I shared a lot of that in the work session with council and mayor and you, and we'll do the same for the community. And then the next piece is those discussion questions. And this is really based on the feedback. Or, here's our graph of what those discussion questions could look like. Have 3 sort of main areas to talk about. The first one, in the community survey, we heard appreciation for our physical locations and a recognition that the use of the library is changing. What are the 3 most important uses for library space for you? I think that, Rebecca, was a real wrap up from you talked about with the mayor about, we really want to know what people want to do, what activities, what do they want to do in the spaces. So this is where we're going to really dive into those uses as we're learning, some of our collection sizes are moving, but this is really, what are the things you want to make sure you're being able to do in that space. So that's question 1. Actually, question 1 is about use. Question 2 and 3 are some of those prioritization discussions that we want the community to help inform. And these should be familiar to you because we've been talking about them as well. In the community survey, we heard from users an interest in different service models. What is more important to you? Similar services at all locations or specialization based on specific users and locations? Trying to not tip our hand, we want the real dialogue between people and to listen to how our library users want us to think about that question. And then the third one is, what would you like the library to prioritize? And this is this really came out in the community survey. And I'll probably try to pull some quotes. There were people that spoke to, in our survey, we had a lot of people that are interested in new services or new locations. And a lot of people that were interested in expanding hours at our current locations, specifically more weekend hours at our branch and downtown, our branches in downtown. And that's a trade-off. And I think that's the piece that I think it's really important to get community input in. It wasn't a question that we asked directly in the community survey, but it was absolutely feedback that that came through in the comments. So I think this is a good one to like bring it back to the community survey. I'll pause there. Any
Comment about number 2. I think for us in this discussion, using service models as our language makes sense to us because we've been part of that discussion. If my mom were to come, love you, Mom. If my mom were to come and you said service models, my mom's gonna know what's at her branch, but she may not know what services are or are not available. So I don't know if it's tipping the hand too much to give examples such as this, but I think that would be important for our public who may not be as versed in this language to be able to say, did you know we offer this here, but not here? So how would you want that to look? So I think just making that, bringing the language level down just a little bit. And again, reminding folks that they may not be aware of it, besides what's at the branch that they go to all the time. So just setting that up so that people can respond. Because if, like I said, if you ask my mom about what kind of service model do you want, she might look at you like, I'm not sure.
It's such a good point. No library jargon. Thank you.
Back 2 slides, please. It seems to me that overview, critical topic that sets the stage for the 3 questions that get introduced. Thinking about service models as an example. If you talk about service models here, they're able to put it in context, you might get some answer to it. That's the only point I wanted to have.
Okay.
Critical 10-minute overview.
It is a good. And I will try to not use library. I like both are right. Yes, we do. This is the context that will help inform those discussions. And I will ask somebody to read this with the maybe I'll ask my mother, not yours.
Let me just start by saying that I get a lot of people who, when they hear about the fact that I'm on the Boise Public Library Board, go back to the 5-year ago issue of a new library for a new main library. And not the enhancements of this building, but the level of this building being brand new. And I wonder whether in this 10-minute overview, some context of this is where we were, this is what happens with the legislature changing the rules. This is the realities of what a new library of that scale costs. This is the enhancements that in the ensuing 5 years, the investment that's been made in this building, so that you don't get expectations that are completely out of hand with what's even possible at this point in time. And I just think that would be helpful so that you can. So I spend a lot of time just explaining those things to people. So, and while they may be disappointed, they understand where we're at. And I think otherwise you may get some of that. Well, why are we talking about? I thought the whole idea was we were going to build it.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
I like the language we've been using too around the expectations for the main in particular, that we're building for longevity of this particular building. We've used it in a couple of presentations. So I think that is helpful to set the stage that we're not talking about building a brand new George Jetson style, cool, new library. But the reality is, what improvements can we make with what we have? And where's that looking? I might offer a little different perspective than Brian's in terms of I like the sticky note before you talk about the trends, because I would not want to, I would like to see what people say on their own first, because then I think when I see the trends, then I start thinking differently, and then I might swing into what a trend says versus what I initially thought. So I actually like that you're giving them multiple opportunities here before you show them the data to kind of just get a gut reaction based on their own user experience. Plus I like sticky note. I think 5 minutes might be short. for doing that. People like to get into it and talk about it a little bit, but I actually like that as a warm opener to get people thinking, then give them some data because that then might change a little bit of what they say. So just a different perspective.
And I think we'll also do something that is on the way out similar. I don't have it designated here, but there is also an opportunity for us to capture, have people learn something new, have they had a chance to, sort of learn from each other. So I want to do something related to that, capturing people's first thoughts, have an informed discussion, and then giving people an opportunity to provide sort of their own summary conclusion. Don't quite have that figured out yet, but we want to have that, because part of this is we're going to ask people to really talk to each other. And I know how much I personally value and learn from those discussions, and want to make sure the community's informing us of that part too.
So assuming that is the consultants will be at these sessions as well, or they will not.
We have, with a fluke of trying to get stuff scheduled, we're actually talking to the consultant group this afternoon to find out their availability. We want to talk about their role. There's no way that they could be here for all the listening sessions. So we really need to also figure out how we're getting them the information that they need in a format they need. But we haven't had that conversation yet.
So other experiences I've had were trying to get community feedback. One of the things that I've noticed is sort of, it can happen at the quick sticky part at the beginning, or it certainly can happen on the page is the first time through you go, I guess, for a million, endless number of ideas. And then you have it sort of as a group session of trying to prioritize those. So you ask people to go up and say, okay, of all the things you've heard, both the things that you put up on the page with your own stickies and other people's stickies, right? Give us your top 3 things that you think you want us to do. And have them then sort of self-prioritize.
And that's what we're hoping, actually, that first question in the discussion can get to, is that group prioritization. So we may have to work on the wording a little bit to make that clearer.
So sort of after you've got all the stickies and you stick them on the
Yeah.
wall, and let everybody go up there and look at what other people have written down as well.
Yeah, and I think the trick will be that is because you could put up on the wall, my favorite thing is staff. Or my favorite thing is the meeting spaces or something. Trying to think about how it's uses, we're trying to get at that use question. And I'm wondering if just that sticky exercise as an input to that may have things that aren't use related. We can think about it.
First question, are you trying to get, it depends on how you facilitate this, are you trying to get a group consensus towards 3 prioritized, or is it 3 for me? That's what we're wrestling with. Got it.
That's what we're wrestling with.
Because I really want a cat cafe.
These are not person, we're gonna pair you guys up, it's the idea.
I think that's really good feedback for us. We're moving into our next meeting with community engagement from the city side and group 4. Yes, Ron, you are absolutely right. That is good to have everyone see everyone's ideas together, because that is really how you sense this. It's gonna be kind of like a brainstorming, and I'm sure we'll get cat cafes and other wild ideas. Take it all in. But I think after all the sessions, that'll definitely be themes that'll arise that'll help group 4 determining what they're gonna include.
So I figure out how you're not gonna have some 1 or 2 people dominating the conversation.
What gatekeeper?
That's not gonna be wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
the best.
Everybody talks too much.
So how we're gonna get the word out on this, pretty similar to how we did it with previous listening sessions. We'll obviously do the announcement on the library website. We will have this in the library and city newsletters that go out early March. We're working on a press release. There'll be all the social media promotion of it, and then we'll obviously have posters at all locations. And specifically, you know, here's the meeting at ours or listening session at this location, but here's the other ones if you wanna, if you can't make it here, you can go somewhere. And then just a quick note on our outreach to teens, we're gonna do, and this is where we're really leaning on our community engagement team. They're leading a separate but connected effort to reach teens and current users with our new services, programming. And then potential users, and this is much more designed to meet teens where they are out in the field with some quick engagement opportunities and questions. And so it'll look, it will have different input. It won't have the same structure. We got real clear feedback that this would not fly with teens. Not going to be a good way of reaching them, and I didn't even need to run that by my own 17-year-old. I knew that was right, so they're working on that plan. And we'll be running that. As I said, it'll be connected, but it moves. And then the role of the board, we would ask you all to attend at least one meeting. One of my favorite meetings that the board had with our strategic planning process was after those listening sessions, where you all came and talked about what you had heard. And I think, you know, some of that strategy listening sessions were really still influenced by COVID, and I think the numbers that we will see will be higher, so I think those will be even more important. It was such a great opportunity to hear what you heard, what people shared with you, the conversations that you had. Really was hoping that you could plan to attend at least one meeting. You know, we're not particularly worried about if you want to attend all of them, come join Lindsay and me. If you know, we could do assignments, but it, you know, it's not, it won't be a meeting because you won't have any official business, but you really will be there to help welcome participants, really want you to listen, be identified as a board member. And then, you know, bring back the themes that you've heard or the conversations, just so we can have that rich discussion in our April meeting.
Would you like us to let you and Carrie know so that you can also let us know if there are gaps?
We would love that if you could let Carrie, actually probably if you could copy me on these, Carrie will help me organize it, but I, as the person who will be at all of these, I would love to know that myself. So if you could send it to me and Carrie, then we'll also, yes, if we have a gap on something, we'll let you know. All right. Any questions?
Great. I look forward to it. It was like the very first thing I did when I started as a board member, is I went to a listening session, and it was really fun. So thank you so much for your time in putting all this together. We have no new business. The trustee to review payment vouchers for the month of February is Reshma. Our next meeting date will be Wednesday, March 12th. Let us know if there are any conflicts, and we will wish Carrie well on her adventures. We will have that meeting on lock while you are gone.
It's the other reason you have to email me. It's Carrie's.
Carrie's going on vacation.
voyaging us.
Just for March, she'll be back.
She'll be back.
Okay, if nothing further, I would accept a motion to adjourn today's meeting.
Hopefully adjourned. Second.
Okay, meeting adjourned. Thank you all.